Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Today I am incredibly excited to be talking to you about this specific concept of fear and growth. So what I want to share with you is how my understanding of fear and growth have shifted. And I want to invite you to reconsider how it is that you look at the things in your life that are causing fear for you. And fear can kind of be a bit of a buzzword. What I mean by this is maybe it's making more calls at work. Maybe it's being honest with your partner and sharing with them something that you've been holding back on. Maybe it is really going after that dream that you've really been, kind of putting off to the side and you haven't been pursuing. Maybe it is getting active and increasing your energy and going to the gym or, whatever the case is, creating that habit that you need to do. Maybe it is just telling somebody something that you haven't had the courage to do. Whatever it is in your life that's causing this sort of sense of fear, here's what I want you to consider is really at stake here. I've really reframed what fear means to me. And what I mean is when fear shows up, it's really a signal to you that you're on the cusp of growth. Here's what I mean. If fear is showing up, it means that you are literally on the boundary of pursuing something that is beyond what you've currently pursued. It means that on the other side of that fear, there is actually an opportunity for growth. Let me give you another metaphor. Think about going to the gym, growing a muscle, for example. You can only grow a muscle if you stretch it beyond what it is currently experienced. Right? If you just go to the gym and you're going through the motions and just doing the basics, then you're not going to get very far with that, obviously. And the same is true with your mind and your spirit. If you are only showing up every day, going into new challenges, actually not going into new challenges, if you're just going through the motions and putting yourself in the same situations, then you're not going to be expanding, you're not going to be growing, you're not going to be progressing, and therefore you're probably not very likely to feel that you're happy and fulfilled about your life. So how do we get around this? Well, what I want you to consider is that these things that you're fearful of moving on, taking action with, are the signals to you that you have an opportunity to stretch yourself further than what you've currently experienced. What that means is that fear is actually a signal and an invitation to you to grow. It means that when fear shows up, you can move through it, and on the other side, you'll actually be able to look back and say, oh wow, that wasn't so bad. And now you're in this new identity that's able to handle even more, able to meet life's challenges with even more vigor and excitement. And by the way, it's never as bad as we actually think it is. Haven't you had this experience before where you're really afraid of something and then you did it, and then immediately afterwards you go, wow, I guess that really wasn't so bad. Why does this phenomenon occur? Well, it occurs because the human brain is a fantastic computing machine, but it can be a real ass sometimes because it is always looking for things to be afraid of. It's always looking for things to be wary of, things that may be potential dangers. And that was great for our ancestors that needed to stay alive and that a rustle in the bushes might mean that there was danger lurking. But now, you're afraid of making those phone calls at work because you don't have some sort of predator to be afraid of. Your mind is still out there looking for things to be fearful of when you really shouldn't be. And the fear is not really you. It's just the automatic conditioning that's showing up. It's the mind, but it's not you. And you are the person who's actually willing to move beyond it. You're the person who has stood there and said, wow, that really wasn't so bad after all. So what I want to invite you to consider is that the fear is not indicative of who you actually are. It's indicative of a signal of who you could become if you move through it. And what this means is, all of a sudden you don't have to fear fear. It means that fear can actually be exhilarating. It means that when you're fearful, you can start saying to yourself, oh, wait, this means that I can grow. This means that if I move through this, I'll actually be able to expand who I am. And I know this sounds a little silly to you, but it can actually completely change your life. I've done this conditioning with myself for a period of time, and now my automatic response when fear shows up is to get excited. When fear shows up, it tells me, oh yes, Great. Now I've got something that I can use to grow. And what I do is I take that sort of emotional energy of the fear and I channel it into exhilaration, excitement, and adrenaline to tackle what it is that's in front of me. And imagine how your life could change. Imagine if you could recondition your mind so that when fear shows up, your default reaction is not to stop taking action, but your default reaction is to get excited, to move through it, and to then find on the other side, wow, that wasn't so bad, and now I've got this new skill, or I've got this new ability, or I've got new courage, newfound courage. And this shows up all the time. The mind is constantly begging you to be fearful. You know, you could be at the gym and you're trying to get that last rep out, and your mind is telling you, oh no, you can't do it, you can't do it. You can do it. And all it takes is for you to recognize that you don't need to believe everything that you think. The mind is going to produce false automatic thoughts that are just based on reactions to your life. And they're not indicative of reality. I'm going to give you a final metaphor before I close, and that is that the map, the internal map of the world does not equal what the world actually is. We all have this ability to make things larger than they actually are in the mind. And you know you've done this, and you know somebody who does this all the time. So recognize that your own internal map of the world does not equal the reality. So when you become fearful, that's not indicative that danger is actually lurking. It's just indicative that you've got a chance to recondition yourself, move through that, and grow and expand. You can apply this to your physical body, to your spirit, to your mind, whatever the case is, to new challenges at work, to embracing a new level of honesty. And imagine what this could do. You know, there's one other final metaphor. I said final last time, but this is the real final metaphor I want to leave you with of fear. Think of a fire swallower, right? You've seen these people at a carnival or something. Well, what's interesting about a fire swallower is the most common injuries that they'll actually have come from them not swallowing the fire entirely. Because if the fire is on the stick and they go to swallow it, but they only wrap their mouth around partly and then pull back out of fear, that is what will actually burn the inside of their mouth. But if they swallow it entirely and snuff it out and make sure that there's no more oxygen, then it cannot harm them. Well, fear kind of works in the exact same way. Fear is only dangerous to you, fear is only going to create negative consequences for you if, when the fear shows up, you stay in this space of, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't really do that, and then you retreat, and you stay in that space of allowing the fear to grow and manifest. And what's interesting is fear can kind of tend to crystallize into inaction, which is just the worst possible state a human could be in. Because fear leads to inaction, which leads to doubt, which leads to more fear, and it grows and grows and grows. And so you don't want to do that. What you want to do is imagine that when fear shows up, it's kind of like that fireball, where you just need to snuff it out and move. And by taking action and moving through the fear immediately, recognizing that it's just an automatic reaction of your mind and moving through it, that's how you snuff it out. And on the other side, you go, man, that was nothing. That had nothing to do with reality. It was just my automatic conditioning showing up. And what kind of momentum could you change for yourself by doing this, by just reframing what fear means to you, using it as an invitation to grow, not as a warning to stop taking action. So as we close, ask yourself, what are you afraid of right now? What are you allowing to cause you stress and anxiety, which are really just code words for fear? And what could you do to take action? How could you grow if you were able to move through those immediately? I really invite you to take that on today as your challenge. And thank you so much, as always, for listening. I hope this was insightful to you, and I hope to talk to you soon.